So today, initially we had a specific philosophy for this class, and I was going to have one person come up here with me. And as it worked out, timing didn't allow. So a few weeks back, I had kind of this extra idea where I knew of 2 agents that I felt like represented specific traits. And I sent a video out earlier today to address some of those. The first thing that I'll say is less than 3 years in the business for both of you?
Yeah, right over.
Right over. Less than 4 years in the business for both of you? Top 20 at hometown last year. Top 25 at hometown last year.
You're out of your mind.
33. 33.
Top
35.
Top 33 at Longwood last year. And I pulled numbers this year and still have momentum. But they're on teams, right? They're not by themselves. They're not keeping 100% of their commission or anything like that. And yet they're still achieving results like those results. I believe that that's directly related to their habits, their mentorship, day-to-day activities, and all that stuff. But today is really just a clarifying journey, right? Like, how do they live their lives? What do they deal with? My hope is that you won't take a page of notes today, but you'll take 1 or 2 things back from them that you can apply to your business today. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to wait in this business. You need to get after it. There's no checks waiting for you unless you go get them. And these are 2 go-getters. So my hope is that they'll give us maybe some information that we don't already know. Who do you want to start with? You want to start with Maura? Okay. No, sorry about that. We always like we were talking, a little bit of background, like where you came from, family stuff. I mean, lay it all out.
Yeah. I grew up in Virginia. I went to Mary Washington for college up in Fredericksburg. And then I went to graduate school and got my doctorate in physical therapy. So I also actually still practice as a PT in Richmond, but real estate's my full-time job. Moved up here from Atlanta where I went to graduate school. And ultimately the biggest thing I love about, or that I connect between PT and real estate, is the education. I was very burnt out from PT, grinding in the clinic 45 hours a week, but I loved talking to patients and educating them. And that's what I feel like sets, realtors, especially realtors at hometown, apart from other realtors, is the education we can provide. And so when I got laid off when COVID came around, I called my wife and I's realtor, sitting right over there, to see what real estate was like and if I could get into it. And he said yes. And so we hooked up, and it's been a fun ride ever since. And so I've got 2 young girls, a 4-year-old and an almost 2-year-old, and a wife, and we live in the west end of Richmond.
So before we even go to Maura for that, the one thing that jumps out is you essentially have 2 jobs right now, right? And you make one primary and one fills in. When you've got to put a lot of hours in at the clinic, what does that mean for your real estate?
I have to be very organized. So that's why I've got this guy right here that never leaves my side. So it's got everything written in it.
But it can be done.
Yep, absolutely, big time. Especially around family schedule too. So family's very important.
How about you, Maura?
I'm born and raised in Hanover. I'm the youngest of 4 kids. I went to school at James Madison and then worked at James Madison for a little while after graduation. And then from there, I got a job at Special Olympics in Richmond. And then when the pandemic hit, a lot of things kind of shifted. And I think at the end of the day, I got frustrated because I wasn't in control of my salary. So I think I was making like, I don't know, 35-ish grand, and just wanted to make more money. And I was really frustrated that I didn't have control over how much money I would make. And so I was talking to Kevin about this, and he was like, well, why don't you just come work with me? And I was like, great. And for those of you guys who don't know, Kevin is my older brother, so he's been in the business for 10-ish years now. 12, thank you. And so I kind of started mentoring under him on the Riders Lawn team, and the rest is history.
How many hours were you putting in when you were with the Special Olympics? Like average, I know it might not be like a perfect answer.
Probably like 50-ish, I think it depends, like seasonality.
And still active with Special Olympics.
Super active, love it. Big advocate for them. I still think they're a great organization. And a lot of their money goes to the athletes, not their staff, so that's good for them.
Always nonprofits money goes to the need. We'll stick with you, Mo. What's one thing about real estate that you know now, but you wish you knew like in the beginning?
It's always going to change. There's never going to be a perfect system. I think I spent so much time when I first started trying to like perfect everything that I did, and even now I'm like, CRM has changed, the way I do things changes, and everything just is kind of always like in flux, and so it's really keeping up and continuing to like learn and grow continuously.
No.
Mine's similar to that. I think I have a mindset of trying to do the things the best and the perfect manner, and we can't hold ourselves as expectations. I remember actually having a conversation with Andrew when I first got started, and I was actually going and collecting the earnest money deposits from my clients, like from their house, when I got them under contract. And he was like, "Man, why are you doing that? Like, they can come drop it off at the office." So I found myself doing everything, like feeling like I had to do everything as a newer agent to make sure that these people are happy with me, when in fact, if I just provide the value I know I have and that I can provide, there are things that I should be able to delegate, whether it's to the lender, to the title agency, or even to the client, to still provide good value and service. So not having to be the perfect, person for the situation going on.
Yeah, first thing that comes to mind is kind of like, we always feel like we have to be like the best. We have to be perfect. I think there's a difference between like the best and your best. And if you're doing your best or not, like if you're missing a step versus constantly, crucifying yourself because you didn't get one thing done. What's one thing you got to do every day, in your opinion, to be successful in real estate?
Show up.
What does that mean?
Show up. Go to work. Go to the office. Go find someone to talk to. Go literally
Show
do
up
anything.
And like watch TV, or like when you show up, what do I do? Like, what do I do with my hands?
Yeah, sometimes it depends on the day. Maybe when you're first starting out, it's shadowing an older agent, or like older, I mean more experienced agent. Shadowing another agent, asking for just opportunities. I mean, people love having assistants. Like, it's literally unlocking a door for an inspector. Like, if you have an hour to kill in 30 minutes, like ask the inspector if you can walk around with them.
Wow.
Yeah, always learning.
What you want?
Yeah, I was gonna say, go do something. So for me, I'm usually here by 8:15, 8:30 in the morning, even if it's just to do two things. If I don't come here, it's usually a coffee shop somewhere. So it's really like, go do, show up, go do it. Even if it's one thing you have to do, it's still one thing to do. But that'll turn into 10 things to do, hopefully. So go do it.
You have to, like, I'm trying to think of the right way to say it. You have to be around to seize opportunities. Kind of hard to seize opportunities if you're not around. And I know, at least for some of us at the office, if there are opportunities, they would go to the people that are around, because the alternative is tracking people down to figure out who you can give opportunities to. That just doesn't make sense. I heard a saying once that in real estate, your best ability is your availability. So I think that being available is something that is important. I think it's also important to realize that when we need to be available is probably when the average person has availability, and that's outside of traditional working hours. Fortunately, unfortunately, however you think about it. What's the funniest or craziest thing you've ever encountered in real estate?
Mine would be actually going off of that. I was in the office in the cubicles, I don't know, probably 6 months into this. And Betsy gets a sign call, or just someone called into the office and was like, my mom needs to sell her house. And so I was the only person in the office. And Betsy came in and she was like, do you want to take this call? I was like, yeah, sure. And it turned out to be a $1.something million listing. I don't remember what it was. And anyway, took the listing, sold it. It took years off my life, and it was probably one of the most stressful deals I've ever done. But
Fun too.
it's a fun story. Yeah.
I remember that house.
Yeah, it was something.
Apparently this house has a trail of reputation behind it, like to the point where Noah remembers it too. What about you, Noah? Funniest, craziest thing you've encountered in the business?
I think, since obviously the market's been pretty crazy in the 3.5, 4 years I've been doing this, and so one of the funniest things, craziest things was, I had some friends that listed their house with a different agent in the Bellevue neighborhood, and it was listed at $430, ended up going for $110,000. They were asking cash, awesome. But the craziest thing was they ended up getting, I think it was over 30 offers on their house, 3 of which offered, one of them offered 2 weeks worth of a timeshare in California. One of them, they actually got an 8-month rent back to be able to renovate their new house, and with that one, offered pizza and beer every Friday night of the rent back. I don't remember what the other one offered, but I remember hearing that, and I was like, that's just absolutely crazy. But the goal of that is, the idea of that is be creative. Like, that's part of the things we can set ourselves apart with offers as well, is it's not always just about price or inspection or something like that. It's creativity in some capacity. So pizza and beer every Friday night sounds pretty good to me. That's worth a couple $1,000 for sure.
Yeah, I feel like the agent's kind of pushing that one a little bit. Like, I'll go by every Friday, for dinner. We had one we had a recent offer where my folks offered to clean all of the stuff out of the attic, because we went up in the attic and there's a ton of stuff up there, and we found out that the seller was elderly, so we're just trying to like kind of poke the bear however we could.
Yep.
The only other cool story I have is negotiating a potato farm. Has anybody ever negotiated something random in with a house like that? I had somebody really married to their potatoes. They had a potato garden in the back, so we negotiated the harvest rights to the potatoes for 2 years, and I wanted to fight him because he was one of my fraternity brothers. Also, potatoes are not that expensive at the grocery store. All right, so by my standards, you both had successful years last year. I think it's incredible what y'all have done, like under the tutelage of RLT or under Andrew's tutelage. The flip side though is and we talked about this, in our industry, the idea is to do better each year, then you need to do more each year. That more could be more momentum, more prospecting, more of anything you desire. But after a year like last year, how do you maintain that momentum or go even further?
I was actually just chatting with Andrew about this because I was trying to figure out how to process this answer, and he actually kind of put it in my head too. But I have the mindset of, especially coming from a job where I was making salary, I have the mindset of every year has to be better. Whether it's making more money, being a better PT, realtor, whatever it is, like every year's got to be better. And ultimately, I think in this business, you can't sustain that, you can't maintain that. Every year is going to look a little bit different. The hope is that you do better, but you might not be able to maintain that. And so from my mindset, that's really hard to deal with because I want to do better each year. But I think it's ultimately setting your goals of like, okay, well, what do I need to really do to actually live the life I want to live, provide for my family, set the standard of what that looks like, and then you also set your goals outside of that for the activities and things you need to do to beat that for sure. But if you have your standard and what you need, it's like you go for that. But of course, your activity level, your drive is going to hopefully take you higher than that. So that way, when we have this in the business, it can even out to be here or even grow over time. But my mindset has a really hard time of if this year's not as good as last year, well then what did I do wrong? And it might not be that I did wrong, it's just that things were a little bit different. Maybe the price point was different. Maybe I had fewer clients, more clients, whatever it may be. So
yeah, better doesn't have to mean more, right? Like it could be shaped up a few different ways.
Noah and I are two peas in a pod because I feel the exact same way. It's funny, I was like, man, I'm feeling pretty good about like how I'm doing this year. And today actually for the first time I looked back at my stats from last year and just like where I was closing and who I was closing and all these things. And second half of last year I bought an awesome house from Dean and his wife Cindy, and I realized like it took a lot more of my focus. And if you guys ever have clients that are single and like don't have a partner and are doing it by themselves, like give them a high five because it can be like super stressful. And I'm very fortunate I have my parents with me for all of it, but like it was just a lot. Like owning a house by yourself was a lot. And so I realized I kind of took a step back off of work and focused a little bit more on that. And so now as I'm heading into this year, one, I think I'm feeling much more confident about like my workload and how I'm carrying it. And for me, I'm like, yes, I have bigger goals this year than I did last year, but I'm looking back kind of just like where I was in life. And I'm like, man, like I'm feeling pretty dang good about how I'm doing this year. And I'm carrying myself. Like I feel like I've just grown up a lot in the past, I don't know, year.
That's cool. It's like when you weather the challenges, kind of get used to them, you learn to start greeting the challenges like an old friend instead of a mortal enemy. You know what I mean? It's like, you again. Well, this time I'm ready for you because we've been here before.
Yeah.
That's strong. All right, so to get generic, and spare no detail just for the sake of like the newer agent, or think of the vet that's trying to maybe make some changes. What's an average day of real estate like for either of you?
A little different every day. And I think that it does depend on the time of year. So like, I mean, Monday and Tuesday this week, I've worked like 8 a.m. to 8 or 9 p.m. And then the second half of the week looks a little bit lighter. So it changes for me right now. But I would say pretty consistently, I'm trying to be to be in the office in the morning, kind of between like 8 and 12 to knock out whatever I need, market updates, phone calls, text messages, transaction stuff, and leaving the second half of the day open for showings, inspections, contractors, biz chats, 212 meetings, stuff like that.
Kind of like AM proactive, PM reactive.
And that's
if it needs to be.
Yeah, and it's in flux every single day. But that's my like goal and general rule of thumb.
Benjamin, any comments, so we're gonna say that that's actually
It's a
what's
work in
happening.
progress.
Good stuff.
She's doing great.
Just checking.
She's growing.
We're growing.
That's right. I would say, a big key of my schedule, and I've gotten a lot of this from business coaches. If you don't have a business coach, hire one for sure, and I know a really good one, or a couple of really good ones. But to try and make your schedule as consistent as possible. So for me, if I take physical therapy out of it, if I've got just real estate, I'm here at 8:15 every morning to, send emails, text, calls, notes, whatever it is. I mean, I'm here doing stuff. And so that way I've also got blocked in my exercise hours, my family hours, my work hours are done. And, even though it's uneasy for me to feel this, Larry with coaching has helped me know, like, hey, if I've got 2 hours off and I've done all my stuff, go home, see your family, or go do something else. Like go, that's where like then the standard of life is a little bit different versus just like, crushing it. I mean, if I can go find another deal, that's great. But if I have a couple hours and I'm done with my day and I've been organized, well, that's my day that I get to have to do what I want to do with it. So even though I have a hard time kind of processing that free time as well, whether it's a nap or something else. But so I think like the biggest component is, and I think anybody in here would say don't miss a morning. But if you schedule your exercise, your you time, and then you schedule your office time, and all that's done before noon, then I think the day is pretty much won at that point to make it happen.
What if it's not though? Okay, so how do you feel if you don't start your day until what you would do at 8 or 9 o'clock, now you're doing it at 12 or 1 o'clock? How does that change your day?
Yeah, sometimes stuff just happens. Like, it just is what it is. I think one thing that, and I think you and I are on, like, I just love spending time with Noah because I always feel like we're like on the same page, which is so nice.
Mind melt.
Yeah.
Mind melt.
But I think this year I've had to focus on giving myself a lot more grace and being a lot less harsh on myself. Like, I think I used to be like, son of a gun, like I didn't get this done or that done or whatever. And it would like kind of just take a toll on me. I think this year I've been like, didn't get it done tomorrow. Like, it is what it is. And just being like, yeah, we just have time to rest and recuperate.
It's like windshields and rearview mirrors, right?
Yeah.
There's a specific size for each of them.
Yeah, I know you say that a lot, for sure.
I'm going to save this next one for last because I'm curious what the answer would be. But how does a database factor into your business model?
So I use Follow Up Boss. I am not an expert in it at any means. Honestly, sometimes it just feels like a glorified like contact list for me. But I have realized that I feel so much better when my database is organized. Like, my database is a mess, I'm a mess. Like, I just feel just not good. And it honestly leads to so much more chaos through everything. So as long as like all of my people are in my database, all of their like big items are filled out, birthdays, anniversaries, addresses, phone numbers, transaction details, things like that, like I feel so much better and it sets me up for success.
Makes sense. What about, before I get on to you, Noah, what about client appreciation? How does client appreciation in general, any sense of client appreciation fit into your business model?
Yeah, it's a big part of my business model. Anytime I've done one of these, I feel like I always talk about this in regards to like, my business is very social. I spend a lot of time with people I spend a ton of time with people face to face, which is time consuming, but I also realize like I'm not married, I don't have kids, so like this is the time in my life that I can do that. Now, for a parent, I would say more power to you, tough job, and spend time with your kids, right? Like that's amazing, but like where I am right now, that's just what works best for me. And a lot of that is client appreciation event, a lot of that's coffees, a lot of that is like specific pop buys for birthdays, or they got a new job, so dropping off their favorite alcohol or whatever.
I will say, pre-kids to post-kids, client appreciation events definitely have changed over the years. Like Christmas party used to be at a bar, not many kids there, so things do change over time.
Now it's with Santa.
Santa's had a few too many this year, so all right, sorry kids. But another blessing of the business, which she reminds me, is I'm still able to do client appreciation because I can graduate with my family, and most of my clients have graduated in the same way. So who was drinking too many beers with me in a bar once upon a time has now got their son and daughter at a Oaklawn event with me. And I think that's another blessing of our business. What about you, Noah? How does a database factor into your business model?
Yeah, I think some people might hate me for saying this, but I really only use my database for making sure that I'm organized with my touch points in some ways. I don't, I probably look at it a couple times a week, but the biggest thing I take from it is And one of the things I do with this book is I usually have 2 or 3 action points each day that I look over the night before to know what I'm doing the next day. And some of those action points are, I've written down 2 or 3 names of, hey, I need to text this person, I need to call this person, whatever it may be. And so that's where it comes in the biggest use for me for a database. But I agree with Mo, like if it's organized and you have all those things planted in there, then it kind of just runs itself, as long as it's organized. But I use it heavily for within this guide to make sure I've got touch points to keep it constant. And that kind of goes into client appreciation too, because I feel like, in some capacity, client appreciation events are great, but out of that, client appreciation is the biggest thing, and you can show your appreciation even just with a text message, or a handwritten note, or inviting a client who is not going to buy or sell a house in the next couple of years, invite them to a coffee and buy the coffee for them. So it can be an actual event, but even just like texting somebody and saying, hey, I haven't chatted with you since Christmas, hope you're doing great, I appreciate you all, let me know. That shows appreciation itself too. So
yeah, client appreciation is kind of cool when you take an event off of it. Sometimes what I'll try to do is I'll try to catch people doing something good out there. Like you notice somebody doing something good, recognize them for it. We hear plenty of griping and complaining about all the stuff that's not going so good, even though most of that's really not that bad. Like catching them doing something good, giving them a call to let them know. Most of us feel like nobody's paying any attention to what we're doing anyway. It's good to be recognized, especially for good reasons. So this is one that I've been thinking about, and I feel like probably every answer would be different in here, but you need a deal like yesterday, right? Like pipeline's empty, you need a deal ASAP. How are you gonna get it? How are you gonna find it and close it? I like that look. I don't even know what it means, but
I've been fortunate to, so a couple different ways. One, I have a 212 group, and so, or if you're in a 212 BNI, whatever it is, those are groups that are sustained for you to be able to go to and say, hey, I'm in business, I need business. And you should be able to ask for it because your goal is also giving them business. So they should be able to come to you saying, hey, Noah, I need something. So that's one thing is if I need it, I'll reach out to my 212 group and say, hey, guys, I'm slow right now. I could really use a deal in the next month or 2. I also have a pretty awesome list of people that I know, because I don't consider myself a salesman, even though we're all salespeople. But I have people in my database that I know that if I texted them to say that that's what I needed, I know that they're not going to find that offensive. Like, oh, why are you texting me about needing a deal? They're more just like, oh man, we love Noah and his family. We want to help him figure out what his next step is with finding a deal. So if you don't have 1 or 2 or 3 people in your database, it's that note. Not that you're just going to say, hey, I need a deal, but reach out to them, ask them how they're doing, and say, hey, do you really know anybody needing to buy or sell? Like I'm trying to reach my goals next year. I would love something this month. Do you know anybody? And then that person then can get on the hunt for you to figure it out. So if you have 1 or a couple people like that, super helpful.
So,
and wholesalers. You got wholesalers. Those guys like to be busy. So
direct contact. Okay to be vulnerable. Make sure you know your people so you know who you're talking with and what you're asking. Yep. Makes sense. Who are you more?
I agree.
I concur.
We use like the Buffini system in ours, so like everyone in my database has a grade associated with them, A+, A, B, C, D, or like a TBA if they were like a sign call, and I don't really know where they fit yet. But I call all my A+s or text them, and like those people, we always say like they want to fight to refer. Like these are the types of people that will like lay down in front of a bus for you and do anything they can to help you out. And like everyone has those people, whether you know it or not. So it's finding those people, realizing that they are those people, showing appreciation. And when you need to deal, you call them and you say, I need help. And they're like, done.
Gotcha.
Let me see what I can find.
Waiting for you to call.
Yeah.
Tell me you need help.
People love to help people too. I think we forget that.
I think Benjamin might have wrote a Thursday Fire probably several years ago, but there's a powerlifting gym, and I like powerlifting, so I follow it. It's called Westside Barbell, and the owner, I don't know what his last name is, but his first name's Louis
Simmons.
And he tells a story about it's kind of the definition of who your dogs are. And he's like, if you lock let's say your spouse, if you lock your spouse in a trunk and you lock your dog in a trunk, one of them's going to be happy to see you when you let them out. One of them's not going to be happy to see you. The A+s or the top dogs in your database, that's exactly what they are. They're people that are like waiting to lick your face when you let them out of the trunk, even though it's 100 degrees outside. You know what I mean? Noah was referencing some spouses with the people that you don't call, because they might you know, they might want to stab you if you call and ask them for business. But if you don't know who your dogs are, what a great exercise to walk out here today and find out, right? You have dogs, I'm telling you straight up. You have people that love you and care about you. But if you're not communicating with them, you might not know that about them, right? Just think about it this way. If you identify them, have them, and secure your relationships with them, when you need something the most, you won't have to wonder who to call. You'll, you know, like Mo said, like Noah said, you'll know exactly who to call, because the other people will have stop signs up, I think, pretty much in front of you. Any questions for either of them? We're gonna wrap up here in just a few minutes.
I would love for each of you guys to, and I know, you know, I know who yours is, and Maura, I know you've had experience with both Ferry and Buffini, but just the importance of having a third-party coach involved kind of in your business and in your life. I know that's something that Dean, Mike, Todd, and Rodney all recommended to me when I started. I've been kind of a Buffini guy ever since, but no matter who or what it is, having that type of accountability and the importance of it. And I know, Maura, you just jumped into one-on-one coaching about a year and a half ago, it probably was. Just kind of talk about your experience and the importance of that.
Yeah, I started with Larry, it was like April of 2022, I think it was. And it, you know, part of it was also hard, you know, it's a financial commitment to have a coach. But I think anybody would tell you that you also have to spend money to make money. And coaching is really good money to spend. Because when you think about the value that you get out of it and what it costs to do it, it's, you know, it's nothing. So, and it's also, and I actually, you know, we stopped coaching right around the first of this year because I kind of wanted to see if I could keep rolling by myself. And we started up coaching about 2 weeks ago. Not that I couldn't, for sure, but like I love having a third party. I mean, I've got a great team lead who, like, you know, we can bounce anything off each other. But I love having a third party coach who helps me keep my schedule, my mindset, my physical health, my mental health in check so that I don't always have to do it, and it's accountability for me. And that, you know, is not necessarily like, yes, it's a financial aspect, but then like what it provides me, what it provides my family for my lifestyle and all that stuff, it's you know, to me it's invaluable for sure. So yeah, highly recommend it. I think really anybody in the business that's successful, that's good at it, and lives the life they want to live, I bet you 95% of them have had a coach or have a coach.
I love my coach. I started out with a Tom Ferry coach last year, I think, and I was kind of like trained or grew up Buffini on our team, and I think I just wanted something different. I looked at like Dean's an agent I look up to so much, and he was a Tom Ferry guy, so I was like, I'm gonna just try Tom Ferry and see how I like it. I realized it just wasn't necessarily for me, and so I switched back to Buffini this year and got a one-on-one coach through Buffini for the first time, and I'm like obsessed with her. She's like half therapist, half coach, life coach, business coach, like she's amazing, and I have learned so much about myself over the past, like, I don't know, 3 months that I've been working with her, and I honestly think like when it comes like growing up and like getting a better understanding of yourself, at least that's just where I am in life.
Yeah.
Then she has just been instrumental in that, like so much.
That's wild. Yeah, my coaching has evolved from like the numbers and transactions and stuff, which is still very important. Now it's more personality profile driven, catering to strengths, staying away from, you know, the bad stuff and all that. But yeah, what you said, Noah, I know most of us are coached in some way, shape, or form, you know, by somebody outside of what we do.
Can I talk on that? And if you don't want to like drop the money out of pocket to pay for a coach and you're not on a team, join a team, because those people are quite literally built-in coaches. So I don't know if anyone's not on a team, but
how often do you guys meet with your coaches? Is it once a week, once every other week? Like, what does that structure look like?
I'm once every other week, and then we text a good bit. So.
I feel like I have like 3 coaches. So my Buffini coach, which I meet like once a week or once every other week. I meet with Ben like once a week / when needed, and then Kevin I can like just pick one and call him.
Triple coaches.
Yeah, that's it. Triple threat.
Any other questions? Come on now. Can we get one more? No? Tough crowd. Dino, let's go.
I'm always good for at least one. So you were talking about, Larry, at the beginning of the session here about summertime, and you know, you got temptation and want to have fun and whatever else. And I know, I don't know Noah as well probably as I know Maura, but I know that both of you guys do some things to have fun and also do business. What are some things that you would say that we could do this summer specifically that might be a way for us to not necessarily be working so much, but to have a good time as well as maybe try to generate some business?
Does anyone get like more stressed out taking a vacation than like actually enjoying it? Me too. And I think one thing that I've had to kind of realize is I'm in the era of bachelorettes and weddings, and so my vacations are usually those things. And if I spend time, if I spend time prepping before I leave, and then spending like a couple hours throughout like the weekend, usually mine are like long weekends, spending a couple hours throughout the weekend, I feel a bajillion times better coming back. And so like building in time on vacations to work has allowed me to have so much more fun and feel so much more freedom. And I like to have a good time, so like I have a good time.
So what you're saying, like I get the stressed out part, because that's always the worst thing when you get on vacation. A lot of times it's the lead up to it, and then the last day that it's inevitable. That's when the buyers start calling, and then people want to list next door and whatever else, and get in the way. But then, so are you trying, when you're going on these trips and things, are you trying to work in some business dialogue, or you just, does that just happen sort of naturally that they know you're a real estate agent and you're having fun with them and they're gonna hopefully use you? How do you?
Oh, I don't think about it with like the people I'm with. No, it's the people that are like under contract for me or calling me or texting me. One, I think two, also for me, like prepping with my team has been huge. Like we have Justin on our team, who's a lot of you guys know him, but he's a beast and he's always willing to help people, which is so nice. So if I'm out of town, like I don't have to tell the client, hey, sorry I can't because I'm on vacation this week, because then I like crumble inside and I feel like I'm letting them down and whatever. But I'll say, oh, no worries, like Justin will take care of you and Justin will take them on showings or whatever, just take care of them so I don't have to worry about it. But then also building in just like a couple hours to just like stay on top of my stuff. So then when I do come back, it's not like the worst Sunday scaries ever. It's like, oh, I feel good coming back into this. Does that answer your question?
Certainly.
Yeah, I was gonna say, one of the things I was gonna mention today too is that, technically all of us in here as realtors are a competition of each other. But the nice thing about Hometown is, we're a pretty close-knit community too. And so part of the summertime prep while still working is, we all deserve a vacation. Whether you have a family or don't have a family or whatever it may be, you deserve time off. And so the nice thing is, even if, I've got Andrew to rely on as a teammate if I go out on vacation, but the thing I love about Hometown is, the number of times I've texted Maura or Hayden to hold an open house or do a showing or like whatever it is, these guys aren't even on my team, but yet if I prep enough for my clients and other agents within Hometown, it's like, and I've got a whole army of people that I know when I go on a weeks-long vacation to the beach, I don't necessarily need to be the busiest person in the world. And so I can take time away knowing that there are great people that are holding a house open or doing a couple showings, whatever it may be, so.
I would also say too, like, vacations, everyone deserves one, but they're also earned, right? So like, especially, I think you and I are at a similar place right now where it's like, okay, it's like letting go of control a little bit and giving ourselves some grace to like go do these things. But I think that when we first started out, it was like, it was grind. Like you gotta show up and like, even on the summer days when people are taking river floats and day drinking and doing all this fun stuff, it's like, hey, like I'll come meet you guys out afterwards, or I'll pick you up from the float and then take you to the bar, or whatever. Just making time for fun and play, but like when you're in the early stages of this job, like you gotta get after it.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes out there it's preached that fun is paramount. Like fun is paramount. Fun is earned. Like in our business, you're not gonna have too much fun if you're not putting in some work here and there. You know what I mean? There's no, not many guarantees. I'm a lot like Maura. I'm young. I get invited to a lot of bachelorette parties too. And it's hard to figure out, how to put it all together. For I guess to piggyback off of what either of them said, I would say preparation and getting ahead of your vacation is a good tip too, right? Like put the pieces in place that you think you'll need while you're gone, and then push the buttons while you're away. I tell y'all that's not what I do. I meddle and get involved in stuff. But if you get ahead of it, typically the mess is not what it is when you're coming back. And that old friend analogy, right? When you get a referral right before you go on vacation, be like, hey, thanks, man, good looking out. Because at the end of the day, a referral is good any day of the year, whether you're going on vacation the next day or not. But it might feel like they come in right before vacation and all that stuff. I think that's like Dean was saying, that's something that it feels like that's a reality in business. At the end of the day, make it a blessing and move on with your life. Just make sure you have your contingency plans in place.